Yeah, welcome back to my channel, Drokoyaebasi. The first thing we are going to look at in this series is, first of all, we need to know what is debt. And debt is anything that you have used that have not paid for. That is debt. Either services or goods that you have used but you have not paid for, then it means you are owing. Now, the problem is that a lot of people think that it is because of their situation or their condition, that is why they are borrowing. But the truth about the matter is that it's not only poor people that borrow, even the rich borrow. Some people are earning well, but yet they still borrow. So borrowing, as a matter of fact, is an attitudinal problem, it's an inbuilt problem. It's not just meant for the poor alone. And why people find themselves borrowing is that whenever they are confronted with a problem, all they think about is that there's only money that can solve some of these problems. And that is why a lot of people are pushed into debt. Now, take for example, during the Obasanjo regime, we found out that the price of crude oil at the international market was about $30, $35, about that. And Nigeria was owing a lot of debt before Obasanjo came into power. Now, when Obasanjo came, he was able to cut down the government expenses in such a way that he was able to manage with those $30 per barrel of crude oil income that was coming in, and was also able to negotiate Nigeria out of debt. He managed the resources that were available as at that time, and also negotiate with our debtor nations, the nations we are owing, to enable Nigeria get out of debt. Now, that is a way of solving problems. It's not every problem that you have that you need money to solve. But some people have a kind of a mindset, a predetermined mindset, that every problem you have, you are going to solve it with money. So whenever a problem arises, what they do, if there is no money in the nation, they go to borrow. And that is why they are borrowing, and many nations are into debt, serious debt, that to take them time to pay. It's the same thing with the individual. Some individuals are earning well, yet they still find themselves in debt. It's not because they are poor, it's not because their incomes are low, but they still find themselves in debt. Now, when I started a civil service, the house I was living was owned by a cleaner. In my office, the woman that owns that apartment that I was living was a cleaner. Meanwhile, I was a senior officer in the ministry, and I was living in our house. So you can imagine now, that is the way it is. Now compare that time of Obasanjo and now the present Nigeria that we have. We'll find out that even though the price of crude is about $70, $80 per barrel in the international market, now Nigeria is still borrowing. We have removed fuel subsidy. The subsidy is the fuel subsidy is still giving Nigeria money, yet we are still borrowing and borrowing and borrowing. So if you look at that time of Obasanjo and now, then you can now understand that borrowing to fund programs and projects is not because the nation is poor. Nobody will say that Nigeria is a poor nation, but just the attitude of the leaders. Whenever they are confronted with problems, instead of sitting down to think out a solution, how to come out of those problems, how to resolve those problems, they will think of how to go and borrow money to come and solve these problems. And that one has been leading us to owe and borrow and borrow and borrow until the nation is so indebted that, even to service our debt is becoming a problem. So you can see that, you look at it very well, then you will now understand with me that it is the problem that is associated with the leaders. Some leaders will think of good solutions to solve their problems, while some leaders will look for money to borrow, thinking that the borrowing and the money will be able to solve all their problems. Thank you for watching this video. Subscribe to this channel, share these videos, and make your comments. Thank you.